Hey guys, uh, welcome to another video from Coach Goodrich's history classes. This is for my 6th grade Heritage Studies or Ancient Civ class. This is Unit 7. So guys, make sure you have your notes out and ready to fill in the blanks as we're going on with everything. This is going to be split up. Obviously, this is split up between Japan and medieval Europe. And Japan's going to be split up into two parts, and medieval Europe is going to be split up into two parts. This is going to be a total of 4-part video, or 4 separate videos that are going to get posted. And I'll make sure I get all the links and everything included in your daily lesson plans as we're going. Essential questions. What ancient civilizations have greatly influenced Japan? Number 2, what is feudalism as defined in the medieval times? We're going to do a little compare and contrast later on in the unit between Japanese feudalism and European medieval feudalism. So go ahead and pause the video right here so you can write these down. Part 1, Japan. Some of the major cities. Early history of Japan. Japan is an archipelago, which is a group of many islands, with the 4 main islands being Hokkaido, Honshu, Shikoku, and Kyushu. Like many civilizations, we don't know a whole lot about ancient people because of a lack of written records. We talked about that with Africa and in parts of Mesoamerica in the last unit 6 as well. The ancient Japanese use myths and legends to kind of tell their history, which copies a lot of the other ancient civilizations we talked about. There you go. And you can clearly see the islands here. Hokkaido, Honshu, which is the largest and considered the mainland area, Shikoku and Kyushu in the bottom. Early settlers and clans. The first 2 people groups to inhabit Japan likely came from northeastern Asia and traveled across the ocean, and they are called the Jomon and the Yayoi. The Jomon are most famous for their cord patterned pottery, while the Yayoi work with metal and developed advanced farming techniques. By 200 BC, these villages were organized into clans with warrior chieftains who were in charge. So the Jomon and this corded pottery that they're famous for leaving behind. And then some of the other areas here. Kind of talk about this map shows in a museum, shows the different skull designs of the ancient peoples and how they ended up in the specific areas. And the Yayoi people right here. Fast forward several hundred years to 250 AD, the Yamato Clan rose to power to control several of these villages and eventually created the first cities, government, social classes, and writing in Japan. The Yamato get a lot of their ideas from trading, and really a lot of their ideas on language and culture as a whole with the Koreans and the Chinese. So from those 2 areas, you're going to see a lot heavy influence in the Japanese history, specifically ancient Japanese history from Korea and China. This time period is known as the Kofun period due to the large burial mounds known as kofuns. And here is an example of a kofun right here in the middle of this city. Imperial rule. All of Japanese rulers from this time period came from the Yamato clan, and they all claim to be descendants of the legendary Jimmu Tenno, the first emperor and an apparent descendant of the sun goddess. Now, Jimmu Tenno, probably a real person, probably not really descended from a sun god or goddess. Because all emperors claim to be the children of the gods, some sort of demigod at least, people listen to whatever they had to say. Sound familiar? Egypt, the Aztecs. The Japanese adopted the strong central government of the Chinese, another big influence they borrowed from that area, under the rule of Prince Shotoku, who developed the first written constitution for the Empire of Japan. That's why he is so important. There's Jimmu Tenno, very legendary figure. And you got Prince Shotoku here, written on this 10,000 yen note. Religions. For many centuries, the main religion of Japan was Shintoism. It's a form of nature worship. All natural things have spirits within them called kami. The rock has a spirit, the waterfall has a spirit, the wind has a spirit, so on and so forth. Buddhism is also widely practiced, thanks to Prince Shotoku, who converted to Buddhism and built many temples dedicated to the Buddha and his teachings. Today, many Japanese practice a mixture of Shintoism and Buddhism, which comes heavily from the Heian period. So these archways are called Shintos, which is where we get the word Shintoism from, but these are supposed to be like outdoor places of worship and prayer and meditation. And then you got the Buddha pictured here. Government. The emperor had complete control over the government and selected men from powerful families to be his officials and advisors. After an official died, his job passed to his son or closest male relative, and they would continue that job. However, in 645 AD, the Great Change began, known as the Taika Reform, and it resulted in power being taken away from the clans and given to people who earned that position through hard work and intelligence, instead of just being lucky enough to be part of a certain family. This is a good thing. The Heian period began with the establishment of Nara as the capital in 710. Later was renamed Heian Kyo. Now it's known as Kyoto. Heian Kyo, Nara had broad streets, government offices, and large public squares, and the Heian period is characterized by a period of peace and security. Some of the famous Japanese architecture here that's found on a lot of the big major buildings back in the day. Life at the court. The imperial court was a group of nobles and government officials who lived near the emperor in order to win his favor. Court etiquette, or proper social behavior, dictated how these nobles acted. These nobles loved beauty and the arts and pursued it, and this period is the golden age of the arts in Japan, of writing, of plays, of poetry, of painting, and other forms of artwork. The love of beauty showed in the way they dressed, with many layered robes and dresses and decorative fans. See, this is a modern photo, but still copies after that time period. Very colorful paintings. The official language of the imperial court was Chinese, while most commoners spoke Japanese, which had no written language until late in the Heian period, another big influence they borrowed from China. Writings was mostly done by the women, such as Lady Murasaki Shikibu, who wrote the first novel in world history, The Tales of the Genji. And the most famous form of poetry in Japan is the haiku, which has to have 17 syllables, usually in 3 lines, and a kigo, where that hints what season a poem takes place in. Two main characteristics of Japanese art: bright, brilliant colors, and the use of everyday objects as elegant and functional or useful. Fans, combs, baskets, etc. So not just something that looks good, but something that also be used to help you out. Ikebana is a special art form that involves flower arrangements that match specific occasions and seasons. And of course, they frequently copy the Chinese building style, like so. And here's some examples of Ikebana. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is where we are going to stop for the day. We will pick back up with this a little bit later on in the week, so make sure you're following along with your notes, filling those in, and paying attention to the digital lesson plans. Submitting your assignments through Remind, through email, through the homework drop. So pay close attention to all those things. But I appreciate you guys, and I will talk to you guys all soon.